So when you think about speaking English, maybe in a meeting, an international call, what's that first feeling that comes up for you? Is it like excitement, or is it more of that little knot of anxiety?
Oh, that little knot is almost universal. And for so long, the way we've learned languages has been all about fixing the outside stuff, right? More words, harder grammar
But
drills.
the idea is if you just get enough knowledge, the confidence will just show up.
It'll just appear. But that model, it just isn't working for a lot of people. We all know people who have great technical skills, but they still freeze up in the moment.
Which is why today we're exploring this really energizing approach from RuiEnglish. It looks at the whole challenge through the psychology of education and, well, communication success.
And that psychological lens, it requires a huge mindset shift right from the start. Most learners will tell you their problem is, not enough words or weak grammar.
They see it as an external problem, something they need to fill up.
Precisely. They're trying to fill a bucket that feels half empty. But the RuiEnglish technique suggests that while those things are important, they're rare. They're rarely the core issue.
So if the skills are strong, but they're still getting stuck,
Yeah.
what's really happening?
The skills get trapped by fear because the foundational psychology isn't there.
Okay, let's unpack that. If it's not the language skill, what is that fundamental barrier?
It's the lack of internal security. Before you can master the language, you first have to build trust in yourself. That trust, it's like an internal safety net. It's really the starting point for any kind of stable, lasting confidence.
Yeah, it's a really motivating distinction. Confidence versus trust. Confidence sounds like a performance, something loud, but trust feels like a quiet, solid foundation.
That's a great way to put it, because confidence can be so fleeting if that trust isn't there. I mean, think about it. If your inner voice is always critiquing you, saying you're going to make a mistake or you sound weird, then all those skills you learn just become unstable. They collapse. The mind is literally working against itself.
And that's that moment, isn't it? When you know the word, but you just can't say it. It's not a language failure. It's a trust failure.
It is. And this gets us to what RuiEnglish calls the science of stability. They explain that real confidence, the resilient kind, it only develops when you train your mind, your voice, and your self-trust all at the same time.
Okay, so you can't just drill grammar and hope the confidence appears later. How do you start building that internal security?
It comes down to frequency and gathering evidence. A key activity insight in the technique is to speak every single day, even for just a few minutes.
Just a few minutes.
Yeah, because that simple act, it sends a powerful signal to your brain that English is safe territory. Your brain starts collecting evidence that you can handle it.
So that daily practice, maybe just talking to yourself for 3 minutes, it's not just for pronunciation. It's for proof. You're telling your subconscious, see, we did this yesterday. We're okay.
Exactly. You're building a case for your own success. And that's where managing self-doubt becomes so important. If you let that critical voice run the show, fear takes over. But when trust and practice work together, confidence becomes stable. It becomes reliable.
And that brings up the idea of perfection. So many learners are chasing this, like flawless textbook English. RuiEnglish really encourages a shift away from that.
A huge shift towards authenticity. Confident communicators connect with people. That's how we measure them, not by how few mistakes they make. And the lesson here is so uplifting. People respond to clear ideas, to your presence, way more than they respond to a perfectly constructed but, stiff sentence.
I remember this one insight from the program. Mistakes don't weaken your message. What really hurts communication is a lack of trust in yourself to just keep going. A mistake is a blip. Freezing up is a full stop.
And that leads to maybe the most empowering tool in the technique. Reframing nervous energy. Let's talk about that physical feeling, the heart racing, the palms getting sweaty.
Yeah, that feeling that we read as a sign to back away, a sign of failure.
Right. But skilled speakers, they feel that same rush of adrenaline. The difference is how they interpret it. Instead of fighting it, they trust themselves to handle it. They use it.
So how does that reframing actually work? I mean, the biological feeling is real.
The feeling is real, but the label we put on it is a choice. If you tell yourself, this is fear, I have to stop, you trigger that freeze response. But if you consciously relabel that same energy as excitement or as fuel for focus,
You're redirecting it.
you're redirecting it. You're turning what feels like an overwhelming threat into a manageable and even helpful state of focus. That is such an energizing realization.
That shift from fear to fuel feels like the pivot point.
Yeah.
So if that's the mindset, what's the structure RuiEnglish suggests for building that day by day? I know they identify 3 essentials to move from trust to mastery.
It's a holistic approach for sure. It recognizes that you can't just focus on the mechanics.
And the first one is mindset, this trust-first principle we've been talking about.
Right. Confidence grows when your inner voice is supportive. The technique is all about actively reframing that negative self-talk. So instead of, I can't believe I used the wrong tense, you shift to, I got my idea across and I can work on that tense tomorrow.
Seeing mistakes as data, not as a judgment.
Exactly. They're just data points for progress.
Okay, but I have a question here. Let's say you're preparing for a very technical presentation, an engineering pitch or something. Don't you need specific, complex vocabulary for that to be a success?
That is a critical question, and it leads us perfectly to the second essential pillar, which provides the buffer for that. Preparation.
Oh, okay.
RuiEnglish fully acknowledges you have to fill technical gaps, but the main role of preparation is actually psychological. It's the antidote to uncertainty.
That makes sense. It's not just about memorizing. It's about reducing the mental chaos.
Exactly. When you know your core message and the key terms you need, you reduce the space for anxiety to grow. That structure gives you security, and it frees up your mind to focus on being clear and present, not scrambling for words.
And then the third essential is speak-up practice. This is where the trust and the preparation actually meet the real world.
And it has to be active. It means practicing out loud every single day. Self-talk, repeating audio, making short recordings. You're building rhythm and just comfort with the sound of your own voice in English.
So you're training your mouth to keep up with your now more confident mind.
You are. It turns that internal trust into a real, reliable habit.
So to sum up this whole approach, it's just so empowering. Confidence doesn't come after you're perfect. It comes because you trust yourself enough to start speaking, to manage your thoughts, and to just keep showing up.
That is the core insight. Mastery isn't waiting for the fear to go away. It's knowing you have the ability to move forward anyway.
Okay, so let's get practical. RuiEnglish structures this path into phases, and we're focusing on the very first one.
Yeah.
Week 1, which the technique calls build.
Right, and the goal for this week is very clear. Create internal safety and build that deep trust in your voice. Every single activity is designed to prove to yourself that speaking English is a manageable, safe activity no matter what.
Let's walk through the 7-day plan. These are specific tasks designed to shift that internal voice from a critic to a coach.
Okay, so day 1 is the mindset reset. It starts deep inside. The activity is to reflect on what you already know in English, but you don't trust yourself to use.
And then the task is to reframe one of those big negative thoughts. So instead of, say, my English isn't good enough, you change it to something like, I can communicate my ideas and improve as I go.
Yes, and you seal day 1 with 3 minutes of calm breathing while just thinking in simple English. You're creating a neurological link between English and a state of calm.
I love that.
Okay,
day 2, safe voice activation. The focus here is on familiarity, right? Because most of us only hear our own voice when we're cringing at it.
That's right. So the activity is 5 minutes of pure self-talk. Describe your day, your plans, with zero correction, no judgment. And the task is to actually say out loud, I'm allowed to speak imperfectly.
Giving yourself permission.
Explicitly. It builds comfort with the actual sound of your voice.
Day 3 uses preparation to build confidence. So we want control, but without a full script.
The activity is simple. Pick a topic, write down just 3 to 5 keywords, not sentences, just anchors.
And the task is to speak for 2 minutes using only those keywords to guide you. It proves you don't need a perfect script to be coherent.
It proves that a little structure can really empower your natural flow.
Which leads right into day 4, shadowing for natural flow. This tackles that feeling of sounding unnatural or too rigid.
Yeah, we get stuck on grammar rules and forget about rhythm. So the activity is to listen to a short audio clip, maybe 2 minutes, and just repeat it out loud, copying the tone and the cadence.
And the most important rule for this day.
Do not stop for mistakes. The goal is to trust your mouth to find the rhythm of the language, not to be perfect. It's about flow, not accuracy.
Okay, so by day 5, we shift to evidence builds trust. We need proof of success. The activity is to record yourself speaking for 2 or 3 minutes.
And the task is very specific. You listen back one time and you find one thing you did well. Maybe your clarity on a certain word, or a moment of good flow.
So you're training your brain to look for the positive, to replace the doubt with actual proof.
You're fueling your own motivation. Then on day 6, we have the real-life simulation. This is about practicing how to handle that nervous energy.
So the activity is to role-play a situation that feels a little stressful. like ordering a complicated coffee or introducing yourself at a networking event.
Right. And the task is that psychological reframing we talked about. You intentionally label that nervous energy as excitement. You practice transforming fear into a tool for better performance.
And finally, to wrap up the week, day 7 is reflection and integration.
Yeah, you pause and consolidate your wins. The activity is to reflect on what felt easier this week, what you now trust yourself with.
And the final task.
You speak freely for 3 minutes, and you end by saying out loud, "I trust my process." It's a conscious affirmation to integrate all the work you've done.
So the outcome of this week isn't a better grammar score.
No, the success is psychological resilience. You'll trust your voice more, you'll fear mistakes less, and you will stop waiting for perfect English to show up.
You've shown yourself that fear doesn't have to be in control. That is an incredibly inspiring foundation to build on.
And as we close out this exploration of the RuiEnglish method, just remember that core principle. Trust is the engine. It's what powers stable, reliable confidence. This whole approach, it changes your relationship with the language.
That foundational week gives you the safety you need to move forward and to actually use all the knowledge you already have.
And here's a final thought to carry with you from the RuiEnglish mastery principle. Mastery is not speaking without fear. It is trusting yourself so deeply that fear no longer controls your actions.
That's a remarkable, edifying way to look at it. So we'll leave you with this question, which really builds on that idea of shifting your identity. If you accepted right now that your voice is already a confident English-speaking voice, what would be the very first thing you choose to say tomorrow?